Hey, this is Tyler, and I'm going to do a brief rundown of Paddy Holohan versus Smolka for UFC Fight Night Dublin, taking place this weekend. For a breakdown of the main event, either click the card above or check the link in the description. Thank you for watching. Let's begin. So, both fighters are very creative. They're not afraid of high-risk maneuvers. They're both well-rounded fighters, and I think their weaknesses make for an exciting matchup. Right away, I just wanted to say, I think this fight ends via decision, and I wouldn't imagine anyone would be surprised by this choice. Most people have thought the same from what I've seen. So let's talk about Holohan briefly. Outside of the UFC, he has most of his wins via submission. He's creative on the ground, constantly looking and creating openings. He established his position pretty well, so this is his most likely form of finishing Smolka. I think his main weakness is his stand-up. Not to say it's bad, but he does leave himself wide open for counter punches. He's very mobile and moves well on his feet, so that may be why he isn't so focused on keeping his hands up, but that will come to bite him eventually, I would imagine, unless he becomes more accurate with his strikes. He switches stances pretty well, kind of rushes in with this twinkle toes style of footwork to land strikes. His takedown defense is so far pretty good from what we've seen, and he works well off his back, so Holohan's very well rounded. Smolka is a young dynamic fighter with a brown belt in judo. He has a developing stand-up game much like Holohan, but throwing plenty more kicks. Stepping inside and winning the footwork battle is probably how you defeat Smolka on the feet. At least we've seen that for the most part in his previous fights. He has a lot of great techniques, but doesn't really put them together effectively. He landed a beautiful kick to Richie Vasulik, but it was after nearly 3 rounds of him getting worked with takedowns, counter strikes, and jabs. We did learn, however, that he isn't easy to put away. He shows improvement every time we see him, and he has good cardio. He seems to make some of the same mistakes that Holohan does on the ground, but they're both creative and find ways to defend and constantly work. These two match up very evenly, and it's pretty much a toss-up, so I would think twice about placing your bets on this one, but from a fan perspective, it should be an awesome fight. I see wild exchanges, a lot of scrambles, and pretty active ground game. Paddy should be looking for an uppercut just like Duffy should be looking for one against Poirier. It's not likely that this will happen since it's underutilized in MMA, but I'd love to see Holohan work long jabs and step in with an uppercut because he defends himself in a way where he shells his arms up over his head, and that could be good for putting them up over his opponent's neck for a clinch, but it also leaves him wide open for an uppercut. That being said, I think Smolka has an advantage in the clinch and should work Holohan with knees and maybe dirty boxing against the fence. In the end though, we'll probably just see a lot of wild exchanges and takedowns with no real game plan involved. I think both these guys are just going to go in there and figure it out on the fly. There is one thing that kind of made the decision for me, and that was the interview with Smolka on UFC.com, where he stated he was working on his explosiveness and fast twitch movements or reflexes. He saw himself as more of a technician before and is now focusing more on being an athlete with explosiveness. And if that's true, it might be his downfall in this fight. His explosiveness and strength, obviously it's a benefit and could win him the fight if he lands cleanly and knocks out Holohan, but he needs to work on basics, I think, which is really his weak point. He also says he thinks Holohan wants to be Conor McGregor, and if he's talking about fighting styles, then I think that couldn't be farther from the truth. I think Holohan and McGregor have much different styles. They just come out at the same gym, and they're both Irish. I mean, that could just be all talk, but this is what we have to work with to gain insight. So in summary, I think Paddy Holohan walks away with the victory. I think Smolka will be better at pressuring, but I wonder at what cost. If he hasn't really put in the time and effort to be effective at using his range and boxing techniques, then he's in for a career in the UFC where he constantly gets taken down or gets counterattacked on the feet. Kind of reminds me of Cub Swanson a bit. It's not to say he won't have a lot of success, and as he gets more technique and he works on those things, it could be way different, but when you face someone like a Frankie Edgar or someone along those lines, it's gonna be hard for him to continue on this path. But I'm excited to see how he develops, and I hope he drills the basics both on the feet and on the ground. Holohan wins by capitalizing with footwork, standing, and positioning on the ground. I think he's just much more mobile. Otherwise, it's pretty even in my eyes. This is my candidate for the fight of the night. I know some people were saying Dalby versus Till could be it. I think Luke Thomas from MMA Fighting, I'm pretty sure, is confident that that's going to be an awesome fight, and I agree. But I think this matchup is awesome, and I'm excited to see it. So thank you for watching. Make sure to subscribe, leave a comment below telling me your thoughts, and hopefully see you in the next one. Thank you.